Good. You know, there we go. We forgot one of the first ones. We forgot to do that. And we're going to be posting all these things on the internet. We got a new webmaster, so in a few weeks we're going to be up to date and be able to post these for some of the other people who haven't been able to make it. What we're doing on these PLCs is we're networking, getting to know each other, exchanging ideas, and we're looking at different types of programs. We're doing that in this segment, and then as the RFA comes out, we'll be looking more at how to write these grants and a little bit more about critical issues of these grants. But the fact that we're a small group, we like to introduce each other just so we know who we are, and we can because we're not a huge group. So we're going to go left to right, and Steve, you're on my upper left, so why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Good to see everyone again. My name's Steve Fenton, and I'm working with Mike at HMTRI. So welcome.
Okay. I'm Mike, senior facilitator for these PLCs. I also am with HMTRI. Bruce is up next and in front of his administration building there.
Hi, I'm Bruce Mendelson, Resource Development Coordinator for the City of Worcester Mass Hire Central Region Workforce Board. We are a first-time environmental workforce development and job training grantee award winner. And our first cohort starts in April, and we'll run two cohorts, two more cohorts in May and June, and then 3 more next year.
Hey, Nolan?
I'm Nolan Curtis. I've been working with Steve and Mike for, I guess, about 25 years now, and kicking around HMTRI, CCC, HST, all the alphabet groups, Pete. I retired from Department of Energy, and I've been doing a lot of workforce development, brownfields, environmental justice, as well as a day job. So,
Hey, Janet.
I'm Janet Curley with Santa Fe Community College, 2 weeks from my second cohort starting. So if I leave, it's because I'm doing interviews, phone interviews with applicants. So if I drop off, don't take it personal. I wanted to hear what Victor has to say, though.
Victor.
Hello, everybody. Victor Aguilar. I am the Director of Economic Empowerment for Centro Incorporated here in Kansas City, Kansas. And I'll get a chance to speak to you guys about the Go Green to Get Green program here in a few minutes.
Great. Starla?
I'm Starla Frazier with the City of Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist in the Department of Community Programs.
Great. Alma, you're going to have to unmute yourself. We'll give her a chance to unmute herself. Alma. Quinn?
Hi.
Oh, there you go.
I don't know why my camera's not on. Let me see. Here we go. Sorry. Hi, I'm Alma Moreno-Lom, and I'm with EPA Region 7 out of Lenexa. I'm the job training coordinator.
Great. Quinn? We'll let Quinn try to figure out how to unmute. Okay, let's go over to Dot. Well, they're working on Dot. Try to get Dot on to introduce. Okay, well, let's go to Maya. Maya?
Good afternoon. It's actually pronounced Mia, but I respond to
I'm
both.
sorry, Mia.
It's okay. This is my first time coming on here. Usually Shantae Vincent is on here. She's on here now as well. I am Mia Harvey. I'm the Program Director of Education, Employment, and Training at West End Neighborhood House. We are a grantee. Oops, so sorry.
They did a great presentation just a couple of sessions ago. Julie?
Hi there. I'm Julie Kinsey with Region 8. I'm trying to turn my camera on.
There it is.
There you are.
All right. Hi. I haven't been on a PLC call in a while, and I just find them extremely helpful. I do listen to the recordings when I can, and I could make it today. So I'm here just for background. You know, Region 8's been pretty underrepresented for the jobs training program. So I'm just trying to find ways to recruit more people. And I find listening to all the grantees extremely helpful in that endeavor. So we're hoping with the bill money that we'll get more people on board.
There we go.
Awesome.
That's what we're looking for. Josh? Josh, are you there? Okay, we'll jump over to, is Shante on the call?
Hi, Shantae Vincent, Weston Neighborhood House EPA Coordinator, Employment Specialist.
Great, and Michelle? Are you there? Can you unmute? Okay, we'll try Quinn. How's Quinn?
Hi, I think I got it to work now. My name's Quinn Taylor. I work with the Pulaski County in Arkansas, and we have brownfield assessment and RLF grants. So I'm interested in learning more about job training and potentially partnering with City of Little Rock in the future for that.
Fantastic. And someone else who might have been calling, anyone would like to introduce themselves?
Hey, Michael, it's Josh Bender. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm with Lorain County, Ohio, and we are a 2020 fiscal year 2020 award recipients.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, this is exactly what we're all about. We want people who have been here for a while, people who are brand new, people who are hoping to apply for the FY23 grant. So is there someone I missed? Anyone who would like to introduce themselves that I've missed? Okay, we can, so we do. So, well, we always start these out from news from Washington, news from grantees, anything that anyone would like to announce about their program. So Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Mike. Well, a couple of EPA listening sessions are coming up, believe it or not, the 10th and 11th, so next week. On the 10th, there's going to be one for multi-purpose assessment and cleanup grant program. That's the MAC grants that they're talking about there. And that one is from, I believe, 12 to 2 Eastern time. And you can learn about the people who hire environmental job training graduates. Organizations funded by MAC grants have influence in assessment and cleanup contracts, and in many cases, the entities who can require and enforce local hiring ordinances. So drop by the MAC listening session on Thursday, March 10th. No registration is required. It's fantastic and an opportunity for you to provide input also. They're looking for that. The very next day at the same time, from 12 to 2 on March 11th, is another EPA listening session on the revolving loan fund grant program. So you got 2 back-to-back on the 10th and 11th. So make a note of those. There's also, moving down the calendar on March 15th, there's another National Environmental Justice Community Engagement Call. That one's at 2 p.m. Eastern. And the purpose of those calls is to inform communities about EPA's environmental justice work and enhance opportunities to maintain an open dialogue with environmental justice advocates. It's a good opportunity to find out what's going on, and registration is not required. I'm going to put the link to that one in the chat box when I'm done here. So those are good. We've participated in those before and they're very informative. And then just another reminder, on August 16th through the 19th, 2022 is a National Brownfields Conference in Oklahoma City. It looks like that's going to be a go, the way things are sort of trending now. We'll be providing more information on it as time goes by. I think registration and housing open in April. So look for more on that. We'll keep you apprised of how that's going. Also, the newly appointed regional administrator for EPA Region 1, Michael Reagan, announced that President Biden has appointed has appointed Dr. David Cash to become the EPA's regional administrator for Region 1. Dr. Cash will lead the implementation of the Biden-Harris environmental agenda in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and 10 tribal nations. So congratulations to him. And also job training announcements and events, HMTRI, we encourage environmental job training applicants who have been recommended for funding, or even those who have not been funded for the FY22 funding cycle, and even those interested in the FY23 application, to contact your EPA regional coordinator. The FY22 applicants recommended for funding should be receiving a grants package to complete and finalize the award fairly soon. And those unfunded applicants need to contact their EPA regional coordinator to review their application. And the objective of those reviews is to identify strengths and weaknesses with suggestions for improvement. And in many cases, grantees who weren't funded the first time have been funded in subsequent rounds because they've improved their submissions. So we encourage you to do that. And then interested organizations need to express interest in applying for the FY23 job training funding cycle, which will be here before you know it. And many regions maintain a listserv for past, current, and potential recipients. So it's important to be on their contact list for conference calls and other regional news. And then two events that we'd like to mention. The mid-year virtual networking workshop is still on tentative for May 4th. And I think it's more of a for sure thing now, from 12 to 4 Eastern. We're going to be sending out a registration form to that for that workshop here in the next couple of weeks. It'll be similar to the format of our workshop that we held in November. And then the 2022 all grantee in-person event in Alexandria will take place October 11th through the 14th with 2 full-day sessions, October 12th and 13th. And then just a couple of things we wanted to mention. One is just kind of a shout out to the NIEHS Worker Training Program for celebrating their 25th year. They were awarded its first set of cooperative agreements for worker training back in, I think there were 15 institutions and labor-based health and safety organizations back in 1997. So they're celebrating their 25th year, and we work very closely with them, as many of you know. So congratulations to Sharon Beard and those folks who are working with that program. I'll put a link to their celebration in the chat box as well. And then also we'd like to encourage any of our grantees, if they have an announcement they'd like to make or to share, to let us know. You can either reach out to Mike or I directly or respond to the PLC notes that get sent around. And in that light, we had one of our grantees called TWIN, that's the acronym TWIN, Training to Work an Industry Niche. And Tanya Thomas runs that group, and they are going to be offering a free infectious disease prevention and control workshop to grantees and nonprofits. And basically what she said was, we, TWIN, can offer a 2-hour worker health and safety training awareness workshop to other nonprofit organizations with workforce development programs at no cost to their organization. The workshop is called Infectious Disease Prevention and Control with emphasis on COVID-19. We can conduct a virtual training for their staff and or their trainees. If anyone has interest to learn more or to schedule a workshop, you can reach out to Tanya directly, and I will put her email address and her phone number in the chat box. She's one of our fantastic grantees, and encourage you to take a look at that. And with that, Mike, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. If any of you have announcements you want to make, just send them onto the notes. Just reply to the notes on Friday and say, well, we'd like to talk about a graduation, or we'd like to announce it. Alma, I assume one of the things that Steve mentioned was the grant packages probably went out. Could you give us some perspective of for those who may have been recommended for funding? Is a grant package gone out to those grantees? We're going to talk about this a little later, but maybe you can give us some insight.
An insight of what hasn't been done, at least on my end. I think these are regional specific. I know that we've been in competition and I don't know how other regions are, but I'm just coming out of competition. We went from job training into ARC. And those panels are still, I think I have my last panel this Friday. So depending on the individuals and who's doing what, I've got to pull that together to get the new information, like a model work plan. We don't have a model work plan for job training. So each region has to come up with their own stuff. And so I need to put something together for the new applicant, like obviously repeat applicants that are getting funded again, like in our case, St. Louis Community College in Springfield, they know what to do already. But I know like the new one, HCA, wouldn't have a clue on what's required. So I've got to put something together. So it's going to be region specific. I can tell you for region 7, it's not done yet because I haven't done it. Any debriefs, we don't have any in our region, but you know, I was glad to hear that Steve put out that reminder to get the work plans going in terms of getting the awards for those that were selected, and then those that weren't to request a debrief, because especially with the next round coming up, and actually really, you know, even successful applicants could get debriefs because you can improve your game for the next round since everyone is eligible. So those debriefs can also be requested by the successful ones, because you'll find out, you know, like what improvements you could have made. And that can inform the new applications for the next cycle where everyone is going to be eligible. There was something else you asked about that I wanted to comment on. Oh gosh, as it relates to, the awards. So EPA does have a time clock, and I was asking I have a new grant specialist for job training, and she couldn't remember the number of days either, but from the date of announcement, I think it actually goes from the date of application. You have what the EPA project officers like myself have a limited window to get that grant award done. And I don't think it's from announcement. I think it's actually when you guys submit it, when the job training applicants actually submitted that application, since that's part of the what used to be proposals that are now applications submitted. I think it's 180 days, but don't quote me on that. I'll have to look. And my grant specialist, when I asked her yesterday morning, couldn't remember either, but she's just so new. But there is a time clock on getting these things awarded. The last I heard, we were supposed to have money in the regions, but I'm not sure. I got one message that we did, and then I heard from the deputy director in our division that it hadn't been received. So without the money, you could still be working on those work plans and negotiating them with your project officer, but they won't be able to be forwarded even if you've got them finalized. Let's say if there's an agreement between the entity and the project officer, it can't be processed through our system for award until that funding is actually like uploaded into the systems in the region. But I think they've moved on that a little faster. I just can't confirm. So just be aware of that.
The rule of thumb that we used to use was when they make the announcement for the grant applications originally, which will happen this late spring, early summer, you've got 60 days to write your grant. And we'll be talking about that in future PLCs. Once that app is in and it's due, we call it the long wait. We figure about 6 months before they recommend for funding. Now, when you recommend like those 19 that they recommended for funding, the key word is recommend. You don't have the money in-house. You don't have the checkbook. So now you go into the processing, and we'll talk about this later if we have time or the next PLC. But what happens is you go through, you get the grant package, and then you go through a whole series. The whole idea is, okay, let's set you up for getting the checkbook essentially. And that's got to be awarded before the end of the fiscal, which is September 30. So you're going to definitely get your award before September 30th. Sometimes it's sooner, depending on how fast they process that grant. Sometimes they're up at September, over the years, September 29th, trying to get that money out the door, but they do have to get it out the door before the end of the fiscal. So that gives you kind of a rough idea. Summer, Summertime, the apps start, the request for applications start 60 days, which we're going to start early because it takes a lot longer than that to do these grants. You submit and then a long wait, 6 months or so. So that brings us to spring of the following year. And then you finalize your grant package, you negotiate, you make sure you have all your training in place, and then your work plan approved with the grants office, and then you get the money before September. So then you start talking about training. Your first cohort might be in the fall. If you're really aggressive, it might be later than that. It might not be till the next spring. So it's about a year from when you start, and Jenna is aware of that. She's been through that. The wheels turn slowly, but they do turn. So once you're in the system, it goes a lot faster. But we'll talk a little bit about that later, or the next time. We'll certainly put it in notes. There's a whole lot of meetings you're going to want to have if you've been recommended, and if you haven't, there's a whole lot of meetings you want to have so you're ready to submit. So, but let's move on, and the theme today is about diversity, and diversity in environmental workforce development is fantastic. Last PLC, we talked about the diversity in the organizational structures. We've got grantees who are nonprofits, standalones. They may be cities or states, the counties, and they applied for the grant, and they're acting as fiscal agents for the nonprofits. We've got grantees who are WIBs. They're full employment councils, departments of labor in these counties or states. We've got organizational structures, the social service organizations, and we've had a couple of awesome one, West End, and we've talked about Auberly, different types of social service organizations who are adding job training into their cadre of wraparound services they have. We have remediation nonprofits that are actually doing tech remediation, like Limitless Vistas. We've also got organizational structures, they're social enterprises like Recycle Force, or a new one that's an old one is Coalfields, where they actually are doing social enterprise. They have a organization that's actually doing work in the community. They're incorporating their social responsibilities and work with job training. And then we've got colleges, universities, community colleges, universities who are struggling with the bureaucracy that we talked about before we got started. Those are the ones that seem to have the most difficult problem. But we do, and they're very successful because they do, while there's a lot of bureaucracy, they can also take advantage of all of the services and partnerships developed in that entity. So we're talking about organizational diversity. Today, we're going to talk about participant diversity. We've got within every one of these organizational structures, we've got diversity within the participant population. We've got job training programs that are addressed to ex-offenders, returning citizens, like Recycle Force, Fortune Society. They're specializing in a particular group of people. We've got grantees that are gender oriented, Oregon tradeswomen. It's an all women in non-traditional trades, focusing on construction and environmental remediation. So they're targeting within their organizational. There is one where you could say, well, that's a nonprofit, but it's gender specific to women in non-traditional trades. You've got ethnicity, and we're going to talk about that today with El Centro. You've got, in addition to El Centro, you've got Native American programs. We've got tribes, as Rachel, who didn't get the chance to introduce herself. Rachel, do you want to introduce yourself while we're talking about? We've got Rachel.
Hi, my name is Rachel Bowat. I'm a special projects manager for the Department of Labor for the Cheyenne Arapaho tribe. And this is the first kind of grant like this that we would obtain. So we're excited.
Fantastic. And hopefully through our all grantee meetings and our virtual meetings and our PLCs, you'll get the benefit of the experience of all the people who've been around for a long time, and some new people who've ran into some difficult situations. But this is an example of a specific, you could call it authenticity. We've got Alaska, where we have people with diverse languages, diverse geographic areas. So we've got diversity on two levels, both in organizational structure and within the target groups. The only commonality of all of the target groups are these are underserved populations who deserve to have a chance to learn a skill that can give them a career. And that's what environmental job training is all about. Today, we're going to talk to El Centro, and this is an organization that was established back in 1976, and Victor will talk more about it. Similar to St. Nicholas in Brooklyn, it was a neighborhood organization. This is the Archdiocese of Kansas City. St. Nicholas was a similar situation. It was a church group who decided to address community needs and went whole hog into it. And this is what Victor has done with his program. And Victor, I'm going to turn it over to you. And we're interested in learning and working with the population you're working with in Kansas. So
excellent. Sounds good. Appreciate it. Thank you for the invite. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Get this going with you guys here. You guys see a PowerPoint on your end?
No.
No? Okay. How about now?
Now, yes.
Excellent. Okay. So for whatever reason, when I switched the screen over to where the camera's at, it wasn't showing, but I switched it over to a different computer and it's showing there. So I'm going to be facing this way. So my name is Victor Aguilar. Like I said, I am the Director of Economic Empowerment with Centro in Kansas City, Kansas. And our program is called the Go Green to Get Green program. So one of the first things is a program overview, and really the whole slideshow, the whole presentation is a program overview of the Go Green to Get Green program that we have here at Centro in Kansas City, Kansas. The first thing is we are they started the process in October 19th, and we go through the 3-year grant in approximately September to December of 2022. So this is our 3rd year with the program. Wyandotte County, which as you can see is this tiny little dot in the northeastern part of Kansas. We are Kansas City, Kansas, related closely to our more famous sister city, Kansas City, Missouri, which is just right across the river. But Kansas City, Kansas has a total population of about 164,000 in Wyandotte County. But when the grant was written, it was very specific to certain zip codes that we're really going to be targeting. And those zip codes that we target are about 81% minority. So you have a large African-American population and a large Hispanic population. And recently we have a large Hmong and Laotian population in Kansas City, Kansas. So as you can see, our target area has a population of about 47,000. Kansas City, Kansas is one of the, Wyandotte County, it's one of the poorest, one of the unhealthiest counties in the state of Kansas. But as someone who lives in Wyandotte County, and I taught I was a teacher and a principal in the Kansas City, Kansas public schools, I can tell you it's definitely an up and coming community, and we have a lot of great opportunities for our residents, and I see it in the future flourishing. And with the Go Green to Get Green program, it's just another prime example of some of the opportunities that are out there. So I started with El Centro in July of 2021, in June of 2021, And one of the first things I was tasked with was making sure that we get this Go Green to Get Green program up and running as soon as possible. So come March 2020, the pandemic hits and it kind of puts a brakes on kind of on our program here at Centro. Then there was some reshuffling around, and then I was brought on board in June of 2021. So when I got here, they already had their first cohort, which was from January through February of 2021, and they had 6 in the cohort. Part of it was because they had limited the class to 10 people. So due to, at that point, I think 6 is what they had. But as you can see, July and August 2021, September, October, we had 6. The reason for those numbers there is we were limited to 10 people due to COVID and the number of people that could be in the classroom. So we limited to 10 people. So our numbers there at the bottom. 3 cohorts. First one was 6, July through August 2021, 9. Then September to October, we had 6. And we are in the process of another cohort beginning in the next few months. So some of the certifications that we offer are the HAZWOPER 40 hours, our 10-hour OSHA training. We also do lead renovation, repair, and painting, which is 8 hours. Our lead abatement worker training, 24 hours. And our asbestos abatement worker, which is a 32-hour class. And you guys can see a quick little picture there of one of our classes. So one of our, so we have some partners. So when the grant was first written, they reached out in the community and said, how can we best work with community partners that are already established and create kind of a partnership with all these organizations throughout Kansas City, Kansas. So some of the organizations that you see there, Workforce Partnership, the Economic Opportunity Foundation, Donnelly College, which is a 2-year community college, Kansas City, Kansas, which is also a Kansas City, Kansas Community College, which is another community college here in the area. Village Initiative, which is a great partner for us. They work mostly with ex-offenders and people recently released. And of course, it's Centro. So let me tell you guys a little bit about Centro. You had mentioned that we were founded in 1971, and our mission at Centro is to strengthen communities and improve skills of Latinos and others through educational, social, and economic opportunities. About 85% of our clientele at Centro is Hispanic, but we do serve a pretty large and substantial African-American population because we are the urban core in Kansas City. So some of the things we offer for our students in the classes is we do to keep them in our classes, but also once we get them here, we offer case management services in which we provide each individual with a financial and employment specialist to focus on their goals for economic empowerment and for their career and literacy, financial literacy goals. So everybody that comes in is screened, and then we sit down with them, create a budget, and just try to make sure that we put things in place so once they are off and running in their own career, they have some of the skills in place. A lot of people that we run into lack some basic financial skills, from having just a checking account to recently released who might need an ID. So those are things that we help out with, because the biggest thing is we want to be part of the program and we want to be active members of our society and in our community. Our employment specialists will help them create a career plan, resumes, those type of things. Help them identify any barriers that they might have along the way. And one of the cool things that we do is we try to follow up with all of our participants every month, just see how they're doing, any struggles they might be having, see how their job's going, and putting them things in place to make sure that they stay on their career path. Some lessons learned and challenges. Some of the biggest things is recruitment is just when I first started out with the program, like I said, my background was education, and asked me anything about education, I knew exactly what, and basically in the end, how to do the work. But when you come into a nonprofit, you have to build these new partnerships. You have to build relationships with people throughout the community. So one of the first things I had to do for the Go Green program was figure out, where do I recruit people for our Go Green program? How do we get the word out? So one of the cool things is that Centro has already an established presence in the community. So we have access to our social media, we have access to the radio, to television. But one of the biggest things is at Centro, because it's so Latino focused, that we were kind of in, that was kind of our area of focus. So when we do promotions, it just goes out to the Latino community, and which is great, which is fantastic. But Kansas City, Kansas is pretty diverse. So I had to learn ways to get out and reach out to the African-American community, to reach out to the Laotian communities. How do I get the word out to them, and how do I get them involved and tell them some of the great things that are going on here at Centro? So recruitment is one of those things, is building those partnerships throughout the community. Relationships is going to leaders, whether in the Hispanic community, in the African-American community, and talking to them and telling them some of the things that the Go Green program can offer for the community. And then partnerships, like I said, the Economic Opportunity Foundation, the Village Initiative, were just great resources that we have that already are talking and doing things out in the community, and see people each and every day. And these are people that we can reach out to and say, hey, do you have anybody who's looking for a job, looking for a career, anybody who's kind of stuck in a rut? Send them our way, and we would love to talk to them. So some of the Wyandotte County is, like I said, it has definitely struggles. But one of the things that we are proud of here in Wyandotte County is that it is becoming a bustling community. With that in mind, our population is growing. It's one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Kansas. So we have a lot of opportunities for our Go Green graduates, such as remodeling. UG's, the Unified Government, which is the county government here in Wyandotte County, has a lead program that hires people from our program to work and remove some of the lead in these houses, that some of the older houses here in our community. Also, our public works, our solid waste, and our brownfields programs here in Wyandotte County are prospective people that hire from our program. We have lots of lead programs in the Kansas City. Kansas City we have a lot of old houses throughout the city, old buildings, and they're always looking for somebody that has the training and skills that the Go Green program provides. One of the cool things that I ran into, never heard of it, had no idea what it was, but I ran into it because they mentioned it during one of the trainings that they were having. We had somebody come in and say, hey, we're hiring staff to go out during hurricane season, help do a lot of cleanup, be out in the communities over in the southeastern part of the United States. And moisture mapping is one of the things that we will train you on. So once you guys have your certifications and you guys can remove those asbestos, you guys can go into the buildings and remove the lead. We're going to train you guys to do some of the moisture mapping after the hurricanes hit some of our cities in the southeast. And that's been one of our, definitely somebody who we reach out to when we have our graduating classes. We have some big programming here in Wyandotte County for the passive house certified buildings. In one building, for example, they're installing, one of the projects is 371 windows, and they need people there. So whether it was during the pandemic or even now, something we learned pretty quickly is that we have to do things to incentivize the Go Green program. Something I learned pretty quickly was that sometimes people who are interested in these programs want sometimes that instant gratification. They want that training as soon as possible. They want to be out in the workforce as soon as possible. So we have to figure out ways to get them away from some of these jobs that are paying a little bit more now. For example, here in Wyandotte County, McDonald's is paying $18 an hour to start out. So we have to compete with all these different organizations and different companies and figure out ways to get our people involved and say, hey, McDonald's is nice, but let me show you how we can get you in a program that can be lifelong and get your career on track. So some of the incentives we put in place are we offer a $300 a week stipend while you're in the class. We'll pay for a utility bill or a rent or mortgage bill. We provide lunch every day of the training. We'll provide a food gift card. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, we'll assign a financial coach to help you with budgeting and kind of help you get your finances in order. That picture right there is from our first cohort right there. And this picture here is from our second cohort. And I'll leave it up for you guys if you guys have any questions for me.
I like the diversity of your groups. It looks like you've got people in your classes from all walks of life. Do you have any issues with the diversity, with whether you've got people Hmong people or African American or Hispanic? Do you find any? Does that get in the way of your training in any way?
No, I think that the biggest part is when it comes to recruitment. That's when it gets in the way. First off, Centro is known throughout the region for being a very Hispanic-oriented organization, and that's the way it started out, and that's kind of mostly who we serve. That's where our reputation kind of is fantastic among the Hispanic community. So, like reaching out to the African American community and building that relationship with them. One of the first things they said is, "Do you guys recruit African Americans for the program?" Of course we do. We recruit anybody who is from Wyandotte County. We want you to be part of the program. We want to get you on the right track. So that's probably one of the biggest barriers when I first started out, was trying to build inroads with non-Hispanic communities here in Wyandotte County.
I'm amazed at the incentives that you're able to provide. You must be getting some support from, does that come from the other part of the organization? These are fantastic. And I think it's something that every grantee, if they're able to, can provide these, because let's face it, you're out of a job, you're down and out, you need some kind of money to survive. And if you're a social enterprise, sometimes they do a work study type of thing, but often that's not possible. But the $300 stipend is fantastic. How are you able to pull that off, Victor?
Yeah, so that's one of the things. So we are, like I said, we are a nonprofit. So not only am I working with the Go Green program, I'm also doing a lot of different aspects with El Centro. And one of the main aspects that I do, one of the main things that I do as a director, is I'm out and about recruiting and fundraising for our organization. And so I was able to secure a grant for that. And with that, I was able to provide a $300 a week stipend. And you're right. I mean, some of the people that we run into in the Go Green program are people who, like I said earlier, are freshly released out of jail or prison. Or one of my major recruitment areas is close by us, there is a food kitchen that serves lunch Monday through Friday from 11 to 1. And one of the places I go down there is go down there and talk to them and say, hey, let me show you a way that we can get you back on your feet, get you back, give you a nice little restart, and here's some things that we can provide for you. So that $300 a week stipend kind of helps out, especially when you have to go into a class and you're there from 9 to 5 and you have no other income coming in. I mean, that's something. So we try to help out as much as we can, and we had to learn pretty quickly that we had to incentivize it. It's not that easy when you're an adult, just quitting your job or doing whatever you were doing before and doing a training for a month.
That's fantastic set of incentives. I think as good as any of our grantees can offer, which is, it sounds like the key is you were able to get out and do some fishing for some supplemental grants that could help you with this program.
Yeah.
That's great.
Victor, this is
Go ahead.
Nolan. I know it's
Hello,
hard to, first of all, congratulations. It seems you have a fantastic program, and you've made some real progress in crossing some of the bridges between different groups of people who might respond in different ways. My question was, I know it's hard to generalize, but what are the one or two things that you find are the biggest barrier to the individuals participating in your program?
Yeah, so one of the first thing is, I'll go back to El Centro, a big Hispanic-oriented organization. So one of the first things I run into is a lot of the population that we work with are undocumented. And for this, you have to be documented. So one of the hardest things for me is to tell them, sorry, you can't participate in the program. You got to have a social security number. You got to have permission to work in the US. So that's one of the hardest things right there, to say you can't participate. And these are people who are willing to do the work. And honestly, let's call it what it is. These are people who are already doing the work, but because they don't have the documentation, they don't have the training, they don't have the required skills needed to protect themselves. So it pains me to say that that's one of the definite barriers and one of the sad parts of what I have to do. The second part, another barrier, is because of the population that I work with. Kansas City is a large metropolitan area, so we have a very transient population. So we'll get people from all over the country just kind of going down I-70, and along the way lost their IDs, lost their identification. And in order to be part of the program, we got to make sure we have those identification. We got to make sure they have identification, have their documentation in order, their paperwork in order. And those are some things that I have to use some of these community partners. Village Initiative, for example, helps people recently released, or just anybody in general who needs an ID, get an ID. So those are some of the barriers that I run into, is just making sure that I provide as much support as I can. But sometimes you have to hold their hand also, and get them where they need to go, and make sure they have the things in place to succeed.
Okay. Well, again, congratulations on your program.
Thank you. And let me add one more barrier that I ran into, and that is sometimes these social service organizations. I'm not sure. This has been a struggle for me, coming from education, where worked in middle school, worked in elementary schools, and teachers are just so great with the kids, and love their kids and hold their hands, and really they're in education, they kind of baby the kids. And when you think of the populations that we work with in these type of programs, these are populations that need somebody to kind of hold their hand throughout the process. And sometimes you run into individuals within organizations, not the organizations themselves, but individuals within organizations that will say, well, they're an adult, they can do it, they're on their own, let them figure it out. Well, the reality of things is sometimes we need to hold their hand a little bit. And I wish we would put ourselves in their shoes and see where they're coming from, and some of this trauma that they've gone through. And it's okay to hold their hand, and I'm okay with doing that, but also teaching the skills that they need so they can be successful. And sometimes I think we forget that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Victor, on April 29th, I'm doing my next cohort in Espanola, New Mexico. And I don't know if you've been to rural New Mexico before, but when we have our graduation, we'll graduate 20 people, and there'll be over 300 people show up at the graduation, and with tamales and enchiladas and flautas, and it turns into a pretty good fiesta. So April 29th, we're having our fiesta if you're in Espanola that time. We'll show you how we do it out here in New Mexico, okay?
Okay. Well, we'll have some of those, is it Hatch Green chilies out there in New Mexico? Yep.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for the invite.
Do you have any language issues, or is it primarily everyone speaking English?
You know, we've been lucky that some of the, so we have offered our training for both English and Spanish. What I have run into is that not everybody that's in the program speaks Spanish. So it's hard for me to do a full cohort of just Spanish speakers. So what I fall back to is I'll do more of a bilingual cohort. And I've been lucky that some of the trainers that I have, in one case, it was a a white man who spoke pretty dang good Spanish. And that was great because for the most part, he spoke 90% in English for the class, but he'd go down and speak with some of the people who spoke, which their main language was Spanish, but he kind of go back over with them and kind of translate some of the things he said. And I've been lucky that we have had some fantastic trainers, so that has helped. It'd be nice to have an all Spanish cohort, and it'd be nice to have one for a bilingual cohort, but due to numbers and really the increased competition with everybody out there giving bonuses and just making it harder for us to recruit, it's one of those things that we're working hard to overcome.
You know, Victor, I noticed you're doing the lead training, and the Spanish lead training is in Castellano. And so one of the things I have to do when I'm doing the Spanish lead training is we turn it into sort of a broma, in that, you know, the words that they're using are not the words that we use in, you know, construction and stuff out here in New Mexico. So that's always an issue sometimes with us too, is getting materials that are in the dialect specific that we need to train in.
All right, Jen, are you training in Spanish?
Ahora no, porque
No,
todos de
okay.
mis estudiantes hablan inglés. So,
Okay. Okay.
pero tenemos clases en español bastante tiempos.
Okay. The logical question I have following this up is, how do you have issues with employers who may be reluctant, one, to hire people that are not like them, or you need to have them take a chance on your people? Victor, do you have any issues with, do you find employers welcoming your graduates? Do you find that it's a sell? Do you have to work with specific employers?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes just the population that we work with sometimes just lack the basic skills to interview well with the prospective employers. And those are some of the things you kind of have to go over and kind of smooth over and say, hey, maybe the interview might not be the best, but let me tell you, they're a hard worker or they do great in the class, those type of things. Because sometimes, but another thing to think about is at this point, they're so desperate for workers. They're willing to kind of take that chance right now and say, hey, we'll bring them on board, we'll teach them the skills and try hopefully make it work one way or another. So, but definitely, sometimes you have to go smooth over. We do have we have had some candidates in the past that kind of lack those interpersonal skills, and I'll go over and kind of hear them maybe struggling a little bit talking to the employer, and I'll go over and be like, hey, so-and-so is a fantastic student, he was great in class, and just kind of nudge it a little bit, do what I have to make sure we get them taken care of.
Great.
Well, I've done that. I've stood outside of the interview and the person's walked out, and I said, how did it go? And they go, oh, not so good. And I said, wait right here. I'd gone back into the interview committee and said, would you give me 5 minutes with him and do it again? And then they interview him again. And, I've had to do that myself, Victor, with people sometimes.
Yeah, I think coming into nonprofit and having a background in education has really helped me. You have to know that you have to be an advocate for the people.
Absolutely.
And I got no problem doing that.
Right. One of the things I've had to do, Victor, is to go to the Society of Human Resources people and talk to them about how their hiring processes creates a barrier for my people. And a lot of it is the resumes and the keywords and the parsing programs that they have. And that's one of the biggest obstacles we have to overcome sometimes here too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I just sometimes I wonder when I think of some of the just partnerships that I made throughout Kansas City, Kansas. Sometimes I wonder, like, what kind of people do you guys work with that you guys don't know that they struggle with so skill? And like I said earlier, sometimes it just makes me kind of scratch my head and kind of blink a few times and like, what are they thinking?
My last cohort, I had a professional photographer video our drill, our Hazwapper drill. And I have found that showing that drill, showing my people actually working together has kind of alleviated some of the fears of some of the employers, just so you know. It was just totally an accident that I figured out that them actually seeing my people do the teamwork and, you know, handling the equipment and doing everything correctly in an orderly manner seems to have worked. I guess it's something visual or something. I don't know.
Oh, I love the idea. Thank you.
Some of our grantees have said we never want to send a graduate out by himself without talking to the employer first, particularly if someone might be an ex-offender, or there might be a special situation, or they may have some tremendous skills and traits, but they may not come through in the interview, so that you as the program manager or someone in your organization can go to that employer and talk to them first before you send them out. It helps.
Yeah, I learned that pretty quickly. That's whether it's an employer or even, for example, when they have to go to some of these different organizations to get an idea or get whatever they need, I always call them, give them a heads up, be like, hey, so and so might struggle with this. Just kind of be there with them. But also, what I've done is when I do have to have somebody go to a different organization for whatever purpose, whatever reason, is I usually just attach somebody with them. So I send somebody over to the organization so they can meet them there. Because sometimes what I've learned and what I've seen and has been kind of hurtful, honestly, is sometimes they're not treated too well. Sometimes they might show up with the clothes they've been wearing for a couple of days. Because again, we're recruiting at food kits. We're recruiting people at the bus stops. We're recruiting anywhere we can find people. And they'll come into some organization and maybe not be treated too well. So I make sure I always have somebody there or myself there to make sure that that doesn't happen. And I've lost prospective recruits because of just not being treated well by some of these organizations that we try to reach out to.
Fantastic. Well, Victor, you're doing an awesome job, and thank you for mentoring us and telling us about your program. I think we're all learning from you and the things you're doing. And I'd like to remind everyone that there is a call that's going to be on tomorrow that Steve mentioned that we'll be discussing the MAC grants. And those MAC grants are multi-purpose, but assessment and cleanup grants. And those are the people that actually have influence on the types of people that are hired, that they can actually encourage employers to, if they're going to be doing remediation, to look at the environmental job training program and make sure that they're in touch with environmental job training program. And I would also recommend all new grantees, existing grantees, whether you're going to be a hopeful in the next round, which that this program could easily double in size this summer, if you're going to be reapplying, or if you're an existing or new, to make sure that you develop a relationship with those MAC grants, particularly the assessment and particularly the cleanup, to let them know that you do exist, you're there, and you've got graduates. And to the extent that they could encourage their contractors and vendor to make sure, some cities have in place first hiring, some have token first hiring agreements, but some have genuine opportunities to try people from our program. And once they try people from our program, graduates, usually they're always coming back for more. So it's something I'd encourage you to do. Any other questions? We're going to not go into some other things we're going to do today. We'll talk about those next time. What you should do if you're a new grantee, what Steve mentioned, if you're a returning grantee, or if you've been unfunded. We'll do that on the next session.
Mike, Alma
wants to say something.
Alma.
Yeah, I wanted to share that on May 4th, there is a, let me lower my hand before I forget. On May 4th, there is a listening session on, I'm not sure if they're calling it a listening session. Let me see what it's called. It's on equitable redevelopment. So it's targeted at the entities that do the environmental work, which is the people that you are wanting to connect to get the jobs, right? And there is a national, and I'll be sending, all the regions got this. I just haven't had a chance to send it out to the job training folks yet today. I've gotten it out to the environmental folks. And then, so every job training coordinator and brownfields coordinator in each region will have this. But there is a meeting, and I believe it's going, and the key on this one is trying to avoid dislocating impacted people. Because we tend to, when we have redevelopment, we clean up sites, we improve the area, then our folks are left without a home. They're priced out of their homes, basically. Their taxes go up, they can't afford to pay them, that kind of thing, right? Or the rents go up at rental properties. And so you might want to attend that. And that's, let me see, I've been multitasking, so I'm sorry, I can't pull it up real easily, but I know I put it in my cell phone. And it's I thought it was May 4th. Now maybe it's April, sorry. Okay, let me go look at my calendar.
Okay.
Alma, I think we got an email just, maybe just a little while ago
It came from Elise.
Yeah, it came from Elise. It's April 5th.
That's it, April 5th.
11:30 to 2:30 Eastern, and it's called Equitable Brownfields Redevelopment.
Can you share that with them? That's what I was getting at. Thank you.
I'm gonna, let's see here.
We'll put it on the chat list, and then we'll also put it in the notes. I'm glad you didn't say May 4th, because we would have had to reorient our virtual meeting. This is like,
no, I was getting your meeting confused, right?
Yeah,
sorry, I put that one on too.
well, that's why we want to get these things out so people can mark their calendars, because there's a lot of Zooms going on these days.
And there was something else, but now it slipped my mind. Sorry.
Yeah, let's see. Hold on.
I am going to also encourage everyone, and we'll be talking about this in the future, when in doubt, submit, I say, because there is going to be a need for people to submit applications this go around. We're having a tremendous increase because of the infrastructure bill, and we've had Zooms about this, that the infrastructure bill is going to go from, they're going to have from 3.8 million last year, where we had not a lot of funds and a lot of grant applications, to as much as 10 million this summer. So we're going from 3.8 to 10 million. How they spend that money, they're deciding now whether the grants are going to be bigger, whether they're going to give more grants, or they're going to do a combination of grants. So we'll be finding that out in the coming months. But one of the things that we're going to talk about, that we'll talk about next time, is you want to prepare for submitting an application this summer, because the odds are going to be, not only are the odds bigger because there'll be more money available, but also the grants may be bigger. We don't know, and we'll be finding out soon.
Mike, I just dropped the link that Alma was referring to in the chat box. That'll take you right to that program. Sorry, Janet, go ahead.
Mike, when we have a grant, are we allowed to apply our third year for the next year round?
Up until today, if you got a grant last year, you can't get one this one, but it's only 1 year. Right. So in other words, now that doesn't mean that they won't change that, but they only, up until the current policy has always been, if you got a grant last year, you can't get it this year. That's the only restriction. If the year before, you certainly would want to apply. So if you were,
because we're 2021.
Okay.
So I wasn't planning on, reapplying until 2020.
I would apply. That'll give you some overlap. For example, Victor's program is a 2020 program. He can reapply, and he's got such a good program, an excellent opportunity to get re-upped. But if he was a 2021, he could also apply, and you have a little bit of an overlap there. So it's only a 1 year, these are 3-year grants, and it's only a 1 year restriction. You know, it's just the
Oh,
last year.
okay.
So,
Even the
so
ones that just got, that are about to get awarded, the ones that we haven't got work plans on, the ones that were just selected for 2022 can apply.
really,
They
that's a
will
new
be-
policy.
Yes, they will be able to apply because, Janet, to get at your point is, when we heard in the listening session, at least that's what we're hearing, because from the listening session, we've already put out that these grants could go from 200,000 up to $1 million, right? For job
Right.
training. And so, and we were hearing during those listening sessions that if they had more money, they could grow their program.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can't, it's not fair to the people that came in not knowing about Bill, right? That got selected and they've only got a pot of 200,000 if they need $1 million to increase their numbers in a great program. So they're leaving it. That's what we're looking at. I mean, we haven't seen it. I'm not saying it's
No.
not out there,
We
but that was
know
the
all of that.
indication they were giving during the
Yeah.
listening session.
That's a fantastic, that's a fantastic change if it happens, you know.
Which is why I was saying, even if you got selected earlier when Steve was going over, you know, as Steve was mentioning, you know, if you got selected, make sure you get your package and start, you know, doing what you need to do to get awarded. If you were unsuccessful, ask your region for information so that you can better prepare for your next round. But because even the successfuls can come in, you know, you don't know if you were scraping the barrel and getting awarded or if you were the top ranked proposal. You know, we don't release that information and you don't know. So you're better off asking, hey, can I get some feedback? Even if you were selected, if you're coming in again, if you're not coming in again, then you might not be interested in that. You may not have time to focus on that.
So I don't know if Janet wanted to hear that, but there goes her summer. Time
Wait
to
a minute,
prepare for
wait
the
a
next
minute.
grant.
Yeah. Don't forget, this is not the only grant that I'm running, okay? Right, Steve?
That's right.
So she may be double writing grant proposals, but that goes for everyone though. So that was actually some great news we just heard, because it will allow someone who got 200,000 last year to maybe get a couple hundred more thousand in the next.
Well, you know, one of the things I find with the 200,000 is you can't really buy equipment. You know, you can't hire someone full time to really do all of the outreach and everything that needs to be done on these grants. Because, you know, I'm trying to do everything with an administrative assistant, and, you know, it's just too much for one human being to be able to do everything and do it well, you know.
Right. That's right.
Right. Well, that's great. That's why these listening sessions are so important.
Yeah. And you can't just hire someone for 3 years, you know, well, we can hire you for 2 years. Well, you know, that doesn't, you know, people can handle a 3 or 4 year job assignment, but just 2 years, that's, that's, I was looking for something a little more permanent than that, you know, those kinds of things.
People want job security. I got you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not even necessarily job security. They just want to know that, you know, for at least a certain period of time, they're going to be able to make it. Of course, I work in a community college, so we don't pay livable salaries anyway. So, you know, you get to work here.
We do have grant managers like you're talking about. I know of at least one in Region 7. If she's not successful at getting the funding, she's out of a job.
Oh, well, I don't have that problem, but I do have a EPA grant manager who's only been with EPA 6 months. So,
hey, sometimes they can be the best ones.
Well,
not newbies.
Alma, I have a question, Alma. Now your staffs are increasing. When we're asking people to contact your regional coordinator, we're just using the principal coordinator, and then you're going to shuffle it on to whoever is going to be handling
we
that?
haven't increased. No.
Okay.
No. The money for Bill is for communities, states, everyone.
Right.
There's a little bit of funding for people, but it's very minimal.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not getting another job training person. So
sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. That's what makes it so tough on staff. So be kind to your POs.
I am. I'm nice to her. I'm nice to her. I just say, let's go back to the regulations and look at them again together.
Yeah, sometimes you have to guide. Yeah, and try to push the envelope, but sometimes they can be the most creative ones because they'll be the ones that ask questions of experienced staff like me. And I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, you know, and that's how the program grows. So.
Yeah, I wanted to move $700 in my travel budget because, you know, we prepared our budgets 18 months ago and everything has gotten a lot more expensive. She wanted me to do a full budget amendment. And I said, no, I'm not doing a full budget amendment.
You knew better.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what we'll talk about next time. What when you revisit your grant, you say you got the grant, you wrote that grant, you know, 8 months ago, and things may be completely different today. So that's part of that whole process. You know,
very different.
So, but we'll talk about that next time.
Thank you, Victor, for your presentation.
Thank you,
was
Victor.
Great.
Yes, Victor.
You've got a great program, Victor. You've got some ideas that we've never talked about.
Fantastic.
Yes, he does, and he's fearless.
Mhm.
I love it.
Thank you,
He
guys.
says he's been in education, but he didn't tell you he was a principal.
Well, that's why it's so
Yay.
good.
Yeah, but I'm putting out that challenge to the other people who are focusing on the Hispanic communities as to who can put on the best graduation fiesta. Remember
Hey,
the
I
woman
like
from
your
Puerto Rico?
graduations.
Yeah, remember the woman from Puerto Rico? After
Yes,
she
sir.
saw our graduation, she never came back. Although in this next cohort, I have 2 Marines. I notice I didn't say former Marines, Air Force and an Army person. So this is going to be an interesting cohort.
Whoa.
I've plugged into the veteran group. I don't know, you know, the word finally got out to them, and they're all Native American. So
Wow. Oh, that's what reminded me. The Native American, there was a Native American person on here earlier. Is she still
Yes.
here?
Yes. Rachel.
Thank you for that. Janet, you triggered that other item that I wanted to say to you guys. So there's regionally directed technical assistance. And I sat on a call this morning in our region. Every region has like a pot of money that we had a little pot in 21, but with Bill, we've got these huge pots of money. Like they might be like, you know, 750,000 or something, which is huge for us. Okay. At least in my region, they were looking for tribes. We've been reaching out to tribes, and the tribes weren't, I guess, coming up with like soliciting help. And so for the tribal person, and any of y'all that know tribe people that deal with tribes, make sure that they're clued in on that. They need to contact the brownfields coordinator in every region, and they would know who their land revitalization person is or whoever's responsible for that. But there are resources to help the small and rural communities to that may not have staff to actually have a grant, right? To be able to get some of their environmental work going. And if you make those connections, those are going to have jobs. So it'd be good if the job training folks who have, I say that you guys are the ones that have trust relationships, boots on the ground that EPA doesn't have, you know, with small and rural communities and the people that are affected the most, right? And if you can make them aware of those resources, the people that deal with the environmental can get that help without having to get a grant. You know, like they'll help them put together. Yeah, and then we connect them to the TBA funds, which is EPA contractors doing the work. So they don't even have to apply for an assessment grant. They don't have to have like a planning grant that allows them to do designs for a redevelopment design. These are national contractors. They are amazing. And they can create those plans, and then the communities can move forward. Then they can apply like for a cleanup grant or whatever it is specifically that they need. They'll even help them with financing, like looking at all the financial resources that are available, not just EPA. I'm talking Department of Transportation, HUD, right. If they're looking at housing, whatever the environmental issue is, these contractors, they have such a wealth of information. Some of them, they have like private companies where they charge like super high dollar, but they have this nonprofit arm that they've offered to EPA at a cheap price. So we're talking national experts in their field.
We get them to come into a training program to
You know
do
what?
some assistance.
Contact to find it to like make the job training people aware. Yeah, contact Sam. I always forget their name. They're two really young people and they're sharp as can be. And their names are Sam. I'll have to look for their names and send them to you. But yes,
Okay.
and I'm sure they present for you guys on what the funding is so that you can be aware and then reach out to the environmental side of your communities, the cities, to get them interested on the environmental to get the jobs that you guys want. Does that help?
Sure does.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, I'll look for that as soon as I finish this email that I gotta send to one of my grantees.
Okay.
Okay, I gotta run.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we all
Thanks,
probably
Alma.
do.
All righty.
Well, thanks
Bye.
everybody, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And
Mike.
Oh, not
um,
me. I'm out for
Oh.
about 5 weeks.
oh, that's a
Have
bummer.
fun.
Well, just get on the phone. Say
Steve, you
hello.
better have a joke next time.
Oh, I do. I will. I got
Rachel, question for you. I don't know if we have your email address, Mike and I. If we could get it, we could
We
make
have it.
sure. Do we have hers,
Yeah,
Mike?
you're getting notes,
You can
aren't
put
you?
it in the chat.
Oh, you're getting, are you getting the notes from us?
I am, but I can also put it in the chat as well.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're getting them, then you're on Mike's list then. I just want to make sure we had you on our list.
She'll put it in the chat. But yeah, she
But yeah,
she
we're
definitely is on the
really
list.
excited about
Awesome.
this grant and all the stuff that we can do with it, and even networking with other tribes and getting everybody else aware of all these grants that are available.
Tribal grants are tough.
Yeah.
You know, and you know it, and everywhere from recruitment to placement to keeping people on the reservations, it's all an uphill balance, but they work. I mean, it can be done. Could be
Rachel,
done.
is this your first grant? First EPA?
Yes, it
job?
is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in New Mexico and I work with 8 Northern Pueblos. I don't know if you're familiar with our group over here. They've been an incredible resource. I have in fact, this next cohort, I think 50% of it is Native Americans that I've
Oh,
got.
really?
Yeah,
Janet, I'm going to put if it's all right, I'll put your email in the notes so
that would be good. Yeah, yeah.
you go.
So,
Rachel
you know,
can get in touch with you.
and Margaret
Okay, and I put my
Chavez.
email there as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah, Margaret Chavez at 8 Northern Pueblos Environment Department, Office of Environmental Technical Support. She would be a great resource for you, Rachel, to help you go through the tribal hoops with EPA. She's an amazing human being, okay?
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. And you have
Yeah,
my
we're
email,
excited. Yeah.
so no problem. Yeah, just
Mhm.
reach out. We got there's a lot of people in this network we can get you in touch with, you know.
We'll help you
Okay.
out.
Thank
Cool.
you. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks.
thanks, everybody.
All right.
Bye. Have a nice
Have a
day.
good-
All right. Start
spring.
working on that grant, Janet.
No, right now I got to get trainers up to Los Alamos. That's what
Oh,
I'm
okay.
doing next.
All right. Take care. All right, Mike,
Well,
that was a
we'll stop.
longer than
You need to
usual.
stop recording. Yeah, I didn't.
I do.
There
Do.
you go. I had my plan B, but I could put those in the notes and we'll cover it the next time. We always have to have that